Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. I took a breath there in the middle because on last week's episode I didn't take a breath and I almost passed out from trying to say the whole thing without taking a breath. Anyway, my name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful sunny North Hollywood, California.
Thank you for not passing out, my friend. Taking good care of yourself. My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I come from San Diego, California.
Thank you so much for listening to our audio version or watching the video version on YouTube. We often mention Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can search for Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks on Google or YouTube and find more information, or you can find more at their website, abraham-hicks.com. I should say that on this podcast, Stephanie and I are sharing our own opinions. We're not affiliated with Esther Hicks or Abraham. We are just big fans. Each week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. And this week, Stephanie, you had our jumping off point. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, this whole thing, it's done. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, the only reason we're not living it, the only reason I'm not living it is because I'm talking about it not being here. What the heck? What are we doing? It's a bad habit.
Is that, well, I guess what I want to say, I agree. And what you just said has been true in my life since I've been aware of it, so I can actually observe it happening. But I also feel like there are times where I have a really good feeling vibration, and I'm in the process of manifesting something to come from my vortex into manifested reality in my life, but it's just that it's not here yet. So it doesn't mean that I have to, at that point, it doesn't mean oh, my vibration isn't high enough. I have to get it even higher to have it come. It's I can have a good vibration. It's just it's going to show up at the perfect time. The flip side of that is if I spend all my energy being why don't I have a new car yet? Why don't I have a new car yet? Why am I not making enough money? That will push it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I thank you, because you're absolutely right. And I did that the other day when I was talking to my daughter. I brought up a subject, and instead of talking about what I do want, went on and on about why I want it, and my resistant thoughts around not having it yet. And I got off the phone with her and I was like, what did I just do? Don't do that stuff. And sometimes I just need to not talk about it if that's the best I can do. Just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Because even if I was to talk about what I do want, there's a part of me that has doubt about how. I think I'm more the how person. I want to know how. I think that's the controlling part of me, versus I probably have some deservingness. We talked about this last week in last episode about, well, what if you don't feel deserving of it? Can you still attract it or whatever?
Yeah.
And there may be some not deserving of it underneath that, but it's always, my head always goes to, well, how? Just because, I don't know how. Well, how can that happen? I'm like, man, girl, I have 1,000 stories of how I got something, and I didn't know how it was going to happen, yet it still happened.
Did you told me this story several times about, it was several years ago, I believe. You were living in San Diego as you do now, and you won a trip to the Chinese theater in Hollywood here in LA and got to go to this movie premiere. So you've told me the story a bunch of times. I'm wondering, do you now look back, because was that before you were really aware of the law of attraction?
Oh yeah, I had no idea. I was in my 20s. Had no
So it was
idea.
a long time ago.
It was a very long time ago.
I'm
Smart
sorry.
ass, smart
I
ass.
hate I hate age jokes. I don't know why I did that. It just felt like it was
Because
right
you
there.
hate them.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. But I will say, I remember um I would have times of being really, really happy,
Yeah.
and like cool stuff happened. I remember I was super happy. I was going to go to my, at the time, sister-in-law and brother-in-law's house, and had gone grocery shopping, and I was just in this really great mood. And I get home, I didn't have my purse. I left my purse in the shopping cart. And I was like, oh my God. And shortly thereafter, this man called me and he's like, I have your wallet. I'm like, oh, and I had a considerable amount of money in my wallet, and he brought it to me, and everything was in my purse. Everything was in my wallet. And even though I did this silly thing, um, the outcome was great. Like this, this man, got to be of service to me. I got to experience that there are very honest people in the world. I got to have my purse back, and so um that's so the law of attraction, right?
Yeah.
Um I didn't I think about it now, like, oh yeah, there were times where I had really good vibrations, and I remember I've been in love with Stevie Wonder for years. And when I was working for the postal service, there was one of my customers, and everybody was a buzz when I went to go drop the mail off. I'm like, what's going on? Why is everybody like? And she's like, Stevie Wonder's coming today at whatever 4 o'clock. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, I love Stevie Wonder. And I went home, I got off work, went home, told my then husband, like, we need to go. And I picked up Angel. She was like 3 or 4 at the time, and we went, and he was an hour or so late. It was at this huge park near this office building, and waited, and I saw him from the distance, but I heard him. He sang Machete Amor, which is one of my favorite songs of his. And so just, I'm gonna cry. Like, I think there's been so many times in my life when I've been in those good feeling places, or I don't know, my vibration was such that I allowed really cool stuff in.
That's a wonderful story. Um, you made me think of something. This is, I mean, that's a really great story, honestly. But it made me think of something it's a similar story, but it's completely off the topic of Stevie Wonder and everything. But um, this was a negative, I thought was a negative experience that I had attracted. There was one time I was living in New York City, and I had my iPhone out, and at the time I had a Texas Hold'em poker game app on my phone, and I was transferring from one subway line to another. So I got off the train that I was on, and then I went to another part of the station to catch the other line's train. And I sat down on this bench, and I had my phone out, and I was playing this game, and I, kind of stupidly in hindsight, um, it wasn't super late at night, but it was nighttime. There weren't a lot of other people around, and I had my phone out in a very loose, casual manner. Like, I had it in one hand, I was holding it lightly, and I'm playing this game, and I'm completely kind of out to lunch about my surroundings, which is a big no-no in any big city, really, but especially in New York City. You just want to keep aware of your surroundings, just so you know what's up, what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, and this guy, it was one of those things where, like, it happened so fast, my brain doesn't actually, like, if you saw a film of what my eyes saw, it would just be like a blur. But what happened was, somebody was sitting on another bench, and they saw that I was holding my phone lightly, and they ran over and grabbed it out of my hand and just ran full speed up the stairs, across the
Mhm.
station, up the stairs, and out on the street.
Mm.
And, like, before I could even, like, register what happened, I couldn't even see him anymore. Like, I
Yeah,
just barely
yeah,
caught, like, the blurry shadow of
yeah,
him
yeah.
leaving. And of course I was upset, and, like, potentially going to have to buy a brand new phone, which, even back then, this was like 2000, I don't know, 9, 10, something like that. I mean, still very expensive, several $100s. So not happy about that. But I reported it to the police. I figured in New York City, like a stolen phone, like this is just
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
off. That's like hitting the
I
lottery.
will
Like,
never see it again.
yeah. But you know, it's like it's a significant loss. So I was like, I might as well report it just in case, you know, whatever. And so a few days later, um, I had a roommate at that point, and my roommate, either my roommate or I got a phone call, and I don't remember which one of us picked up, but it was a detective from the NYPD, and he said, you know, we got your report, and we'd like to send a couple of detectives over to interview you if you don't mind. And I don't know if it was me and my roommate, but they said sure. So they came over, and it turned out there had been a string of these incidents, all very similar. So they thought it was the same person, and he had stolen at that point like probably around 10 or 12 phones. So it was in felony territory because it was like, you know,
Okay.
$5,000 or $6,000 worth of phones at that point.
Yeah.
And they thought he had some sort of like, you know, he had some sort of arrangement with somebody at like a shady phone dealer where they were like, you know, taking the
Oh,
SIM card
wow.
out or something, whatever. But
Yeah.
anyway, sorry, this story's gone on so long, but the day that the two NYP, so I'm sitting in my apartment and we know that the detectives are on their way. So like the doorbell rings, we buzz them up, and I've been watching Law and Order, which is like one of my favorite shows on television for years. And like I watch the regular Law and Order, I watch SVU, like I
That's
watch Criminal
great.
Intent, like I just love that whole series. And whenever I watch that show, I'm always like super happy because it's just like I don't know what it is. It's just like I love the show.
Uh,
And like when the two detectives sit down and they start asking me questions, it was so weird. Like I had to hide my emotion because the appropriate emotion to show is like being upset that my
yeah.
phone was stolen. But what I was feeling is like I was at frickin' Disney World living my dream. Like I'm like, because they were straight
Oh,
up like
wow.
it's a testament to how realistic apparently Law and Order is because they these were real detectives and they
Yeah.
acted exactly like you would want them to act on the show.
Uh,
And I'm like, I'm in the scene. Like I'm on freaking Law and Order right now. Like it's real. It's like,
oh my gosh.
and they had the
Wow.
like they, you know, there's the accents in New York are all over the place because people move there from wherever.
Yeah.
But both these guys had like, wow, like perfect like New York accents. Like it's like they'd worked with a dialect coach for a film.
Oh
You
my
know?
gosh. They're like, no, we're the real deal.
Yeah. And I just remember kind of like laughing to myself afterwards because on the way out, one of the two detectives said, "Thanks for being so helpful. Like you were really, you know, a lot of people don't like to talk about this stuff, and you were really kind of like forthcoming with all the information. We really appreciate that. That makes our job easier." And
Oh,
I had to
freak.
be like, "Oh, you're welcome." And it, like inside, I was like, "Dude, come back anytime. This was amazing."
Oh my gosh.
So I
That is
mean,
a great story. Did you ever get your phone back?
I did not get it back. You know, I mean, yeah, to tell the story is really frustrating because they did catch the guy, and I believe he
Okay.
did go to jail. But it was really frustrating because they called me and said we've apprehended someone we believe might be the thief. We want you to come down to the station and just look at an array of photos.
Oh, okay.
And it was one of those super. And this is another scene that happens in
I was just
Law
gonna
and Order
say, I was
all
just
the
gonna
time.
say,
And
oh
like
my
it's
gosh.
so frustrating because on Law and Order, if the person's like, "Well, I think it's this guy, but I'm not sure," the cops are like,
Yeah.
"Ah, our case is blown."
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going down there. I'm like, I didn't get a good look at this guy. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
that annoying
yeah.
witness on the show who didn't get a good look at him, and there's only one guy there, and he shows me the photo array, and there was one guy on there that I thought looked kind of like the guy, but I was
Mhm.
like, you know, I take that stuff seriously. I'm a very honest person, and I'm not going to send an innocent person to jail. So I was like, well, I think it's that guy, and he's like, how sure are you? And I was like, well, like I don't remember what I said, but I think I said like 40%, and he's like, okay. But I think they had enough. I think I heard somewhere afterwards they contacted me and they had enough positive IDs from other people that they did the correct person was put in jail for that. But
Oh man, so that's so law of attraction. Like there
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
something you had this every time you watch Law and
yeah,
Order, you had this strong desire to have these
yeah,
experiences, and then law of attraction brought it to you. Let me ask you this. So having lived it all,
yeah.
if someone was to come to say to you, Collin, we'll be able to set this up for you. You're gonna have these
Mm,
experiences like you have,
yeah.
you see on on Law and Order. The only thing is the price you're gonna have to pay is we're gonna take your phone and you're never gonna see it again.
I would
What would
have,
you choose?
in hindsight, I would hold my phone even more lightly, and I would hold it out like this so that the guy could take it easier.
Okay, so you would give up your phone to have this experience?
It's
Okay.
funny. I've never thought about it that way, but now that I tell the whole story, I am so glad that dude stole my phone. Like it was, I'll remember. I will remember that those
Ah,
two NYPD detectives, those two awesome detectives, interviewing me in that apartment for the rest of my life. Like it was
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
highlights of my life,
yeah.
honestly.
That's I think that's even, well, it's up there with my Grauman's Chinese theater
Yeah.
experience. Like, yeah, yeah.
Well, the reason that I brought up the Chinese theater story of yours is because we've been, you know, like any desperate podcast and YouTube channel, we're just trying to find ways to get views and clicks because that's all we care about. And I
Oh,
was
so I'm gonna
telling you,
put Grauman's Chinese theater in
no, no, no,
tag. Oh.
because in the bathroom at the Chinese theater,
You wanted me to tell the whole story. Okay.
yes,
Okay. All right.
because
So
this way we'll get all of the fans of that A-list
I
to
have
click on this video.
since well, the first time I won something, I would think I was like 10 and I won a bunch of albums, Columbia albums. And then it wasn't until I was in my early and mid 20s that I started winning things on the radio again.
Mhm.
And the local radio station was giving away Speed. This is how long ago it was, the movie Speed with Keanu Reeves. And so they were going to have a premiere down in San Diego. So I won the tickets to that. So anyone who won tickets to the premiere in San Diego automatically got into a hopper to win the big prize of getting a limo ride from San Diego all the way to Grauman's and seeing the actual premiere of Speed at Grauman's Chinese Theater. And so I was excited, like, oh my God, I have this possibility of going. And so they were going to call the winner on Monday morning. And sure enough, I listened to the radio and it said my name. And so I couldn't get the day off from work, the whole day off, but I could go in, sort mail that morning, and then get the rest of them. So I invited my friend Christina, and they pick us me up. She's there at my condo. They pick us up in the limo. We go up there, and just as you see on TV, the red carpet, people being roped off. There's people standing there cheering. The limo driver gets out. He opens up the car door for us. We both have sunglasses on. I don't know why we're getting out of the car with sunglasses on. He opens up the car and people lose their stuff. They're screaming and yelling. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, we're no one, right? So we walk down the red carpet and we go in. And I don't realize this, but there's a bunch of industry people in there. So I'm sitting next to people and they show the first scene. I think it's an elevator scene. And I hear these whispers, oh, that's so-and-so. I'm like, what the heck? So they showed the movie in 2 clips. So they showed half of it. Then we took a break and we go into the restroom, of course. And Christina and I are standing in line and she goes, there's this woman, I think she comes out of the restroom. She goes, do you know that's Sandra Bullock? And I'm like, what? I'm like, oh my God. And she's wearing like this white outfit, looked like she had just gone and played tennis or something that day, but it was dirty. She had like a spot on her shirt. And I'm like, oh my God, what the heck? So we heard murmurs that Keanu Reeves never showed up. I don't know. So we go back and we watch the rest of the movie, and then they show the credits, and people are cheering left and right because they know everyone in the film, all these people who work behind the scenes. And so the sound system in the Grauman's Chinese Theater is amazing. So I actually saw Sandra Bullock before she became famous. So didn't get to see Keanu Reeves, who I really wanted to see, but yeah, I mean, apparently I had really good vibrations. Well, with the winning stuff, I had this strong belief that I could win. And I think that looking back on it, hindsight is 2020. I think that's why I always won. And then I kept trying because there were a lot of times I didn't win.
Well, the other thing about that story though is that to me, like you had to be in a positive vibration to win originally on the radio way
Yeah.
before the actual
Yeah.
event.
And I really wanted to see that movie. So I was excited about
Oh,
winning
okay.
some tickets. So I was like,
So,
I'm gonna
but
talk
then
there. Oh my God.
the evening itself, as it progresses, like you getting picked up in the limo,
Yeah, it was
again,
awesome.
oh my God, I feel so awesome. Then you get to the theater and you're walking the red carpet. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then
Yeah,
you go into
yeah.
the
I actually
theater.
had that experience. People just yelling and screaming.
I mean, at
For
that point,
me, getting out of the car.
it makes total sense that you would have seen a movie star just as like an aside. Whereas like if somebody was like, oh my God, I'm such a huge Sandra Bullock fan and I have to meet her, but there's probably no way I can do it. Like that person would never meet Sandra Bullock because they don't believe it's possible. But you
Yeah,
weren't even
yeah.
trying and you're like, oh, gotta go to
I
the bathroom.
felt
Oh,
good and it
hey,
just got
hey,
better.
Sandra Bullock. This makes me want to tell my
Uh,
another story. I don't know if there's a law of attraction aspect to this. Well,
uh,
there is. Oh my God, there is. I
nice.
never thought about it in this terms, but I have to tell you this story. So one day I was in New York. I was living in New York City, and I had the day off on like a Wednesday. And like one of my favorite things to do ever has always been to go to the movie theater when no one else will be there, which is super challenging in New York City because there's 10 million people and they're always going to the but it was a Wednesday, and I was like, man, if I go to like the noon matinee of something, like it's not going to be empty, but it's going to be as close to empty as New York City gets. So I'm going to go. So I go to the Lowe's Theater, just north of Union Square, like 17th and 6th or something like that. And I forget what movie I was going to go see, but I get in line. They have a ticket booth that faces the street, right? So I get in line, and there's this guy with short, dark, curly hair right in front of me, about my height. And he turns around, and it's the actor Adrian Grenier, who was the
Oh my
star
gosh.
of
Yeah.
that show on HBO that I'm blanking on the title of it. That's terrible. Entourage.
Entourage.
Entourage. But he's been in a whole bunch of stuff, but that was what it was known for. And he, at one point, he did that thing that you do when you're standing in line. You're just like looking around, and he turned around and looked, and I don't think he knew he had anybody behind him, and he turned around and looked me right in the eye, and I had this moment of like, that's Adrian Grenier, like I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
And he had this thing that I'm assuming a lot of celebrities must go through all the time if they ever try to go out in public, which is, oh no, does he recognize me, and how are we going to handle that? Is it going to be awkward? Is it, whatever. And I didn't say anything, but I was clearly like
I
not.
know who you are.
Yeah, I was not cool at all. I probably, my facial expression, and apologies to the audio listeners, but it was something probably like that, which is just like trying to be cool and looking like the opposite of cool.
Yeah.
So he turns back around, and he gets his ticket, and he's with a female friend or something, and he goes in, and I get my ticket, and I'm like, okay, well, what I'm gonna I felt super uncomfortable, and a lot of people would be like, oh, you should try to talk to him or get his autograph. Like at that point, I was the opposite. I was like, I'm here to relax and see a movie. I don't want to make this guy uncomfortable. Like because I'm assuming also, I have no idea, but I'm assuming celebrities like that, knowing that they can be recognized in a big public area like that, they want to go on a Wednesday at noon because they assume there's
There could be a lot of people
like,
there.
look, we're here for the same reason, to have
Yeah.
nobody know we're here. So I'm not gonna bug him. So I get inside, and I haven't eaten lunch yet, so I want to get some nachos. Um, so I get in line, and then there's another line to my right, and Adrian Grenier's in line for nachos also. And no one else seems to recognize him at all. Everyone else is totally chill as if nobody else is there. And I'm kind of like I'm trying super hard not to look over, but there's that
Oh,
curiosity, it's like,
yeah,
oh, but it's
sure.
really him. And I was like every now and then, and like, so the first time I look over, he's not looking at me. The second time he looks back at me again and gives me this look of like, are you gonna be weird? Like, and I'm like, no, not gonna be weird, not gonna be weird. And I'm just at that point, I'm like, oh my God, like once we get these nachos taken care of, I hope to God, like we're seeing different movies, like this is awful. But what I now realize in telling the story is from a law of attraction perspective, I was like, please don't let me bump into Adrian Grenier again. Please don't. This is so uncomfortable. I really was uncomfortable bumping into Adrian Grenier. Please don't have it happen again. And of course, what I'm focusing on is the thing, right?
Like, and I wonder if he was doing the same thing. I don't want to see that.
Maybe it could have been a co-creation nightmare.
Like, it sure was.
A little co-creation nightmare in the,
oh my gosh.
in the Lowe's on 17th Street. So anyway, so I go in, I get my nachos. Adrian Grenier gets his nachos or whatever he got, his snack. And, you know, he kind of moves away and we lose track of each other. And I'm like, oh, good. And I go in and I sit in the movie theater and I find a seat and there's not that many people in there. And it's dark. Like they've already dimmed the lights for some reason. So I don't see Adrian Grenier anyway. So I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But then I realize I'm super early and I need to use the restroom. So I put my nachos, you know, on the seat next to me and I get up and I go to the restroom. And the reason I didn't see Adrian Grenier anywhere in the between the theaters or in the theater is because Adrian Grenier was in the restroom. And as I walk in, he comes out of a stall.
Oh my god!
And it's like deer in the fucking headlights again. It's like we're looking right. There's no option other than to look right at each other.
Hilarious.
And again, he gives me an even more dire kind of like, are you stalking me kind of thing? And I'm like, dude, I swear to, like in my eyes, I'm trying to communicate like, dude, I don't want to bump into you. Like, this is my worst nightmare. It's getting worse. I'm so sorry. Like my apologies, whatever. Anyway, so he washes his hands and leaves and I do my business after that. And I wash my hands and leave. And I go, well, at least as far as I know, we're not watching the same movie. So I go back to my seat and I'm sitting there and there's no Adrian Grenier anywhere around. I'm like, oh, thank goodness. And then like right before the previews start, this couple comes right down the aisle and it's dark, so they can't see faces. And so they sit right in front of me on the right side aisle. And it's Adrian Grenier and his female.
No. Oh my gosh. Oh my god. And this time he sat in front of you. Yeah. Oh my god.
And I honestly don't think knew because it was dark and whatever. So like he never turned around again, thank God. But I was like
did you get up and move?
Movie. I didn't because I was worried that if I moved,
he would see you.
It would, because he was literally, there were not that many people and he was right in front of me. And I was like, oh, if I move, like he might be like, oh, why? Oh, God.
Oh my God, like, you guys just wrote a script for Entourage. Did you know that? Oh my God. Oh, that is hilarious.
Yeah. I never thought about the law of attraction aspect of that, but it's so clear because when the first time he turned around in the ticket line, I felt so awful. And I just remember thinking like, oh God, please let me not, like, let's avoid each other. Let's have this not happen. I don't want this to happen. I want this to happen. And then all we did was create it again and again and again.
See, because that was your focus and that was your emotion. That's what you kept attracting. So whether we want it or not, it's about our emotion and our thoughts, what we're focused on. And that is a perfect example of attracting and allowing something you didn't want.
So I guess the title of this episode is
You're a badass allower, Collin.
Yeah, apparently. I guess the title of this episode is something like why I couldn't quit Adrian Grenier at the movies. Or something. Anyway.
Oh, that was great.
What you focus on, you attract.
Yes. Whether you want it or not, you are a powerful manifester.
The universe will make it happen, baby.
Yeah, law of attraction is always responding to your focus. Oh man.
Well, thank you so much for joining this discussion today. I hope you enjoyed the True Hollywood Stories version of Co-Creation Station.
There you
uh,
go. That's the title.
the Real Hollywood Stories. Yeah.
Oh,
Remember, we're posting a brand new episode for you every Monday morning at this point. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support us. All our social media links and our email address are down in the doodly-doo description of the YouTube version below. We wish you a happy and abundant week. And remember, what you focus on, you attract. And we look forward to you joining us next time on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Have a great week, everybody.
bye.